To discuss how these new restrictions are affecting the tourism industry in the province, I'm joined by Lizelle Maurice via Zoom. She's the Chairperson of Women in Tourism East London and the owner of Park Place Boutique Guesthouse. Lizelle, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. What has been the impact of beach closures on local accommodation, entertainment facilities, the tourism sector at large?
First of all, I also say good afternoon, Anlie, and also good afternoon to our viewers. It has had a definite impact in that a lot of the tourists that usually come down to the beaches during December holidays are cancelling their accommodation bookings that they have made. I personally have been affected by that, and also hotels on the beachfront as well. Even corporate events have cancelled after the President's speech the other night.
So for those who have not yet cancelled their accommodation or planning to maybe come to your part of town in the early parts of next year, we know Christmas is around the corner, what could you say to them in terms of the alternatives to beaches? Surely the beach is not the only attraction in East London.
Yes, of course. The beach is not the only attraction. So for those people who have not cancelled, we so appreciate the fact that you are still coming to East London. There's the museum, there is the Python Park, there is so many. There's our beautiful restaurants that sell very good food here in East London. You know, so there's an array of alternative venues that they can be entertained with as well. So please do come. Don't cancel your accommodation. Yeah.
In terms of those cancellations, Lizelle, what's been the cancellation policy overall? You're part of Women in Tourism, so I'm assuming that you've been involved in overarching decision-making in terms of how to approach cancellations this festive season. Have accommodation establishments, hotels been refunding people who cancel, or is there a cancellation penalty fee, or do people who cancel forfeit the accommodation that they've paid for?
You know, it depends from establishment to establishment, but generally, I know during the first hard lockdown of COVID-19, we had to refund those people their accommodation or their events. You know, so with this one here, we'd have to have an alternative strategy. In fact, we have asked travelers not to cancel their accommodation, rather to postpone it. You know, so that it's still in the bank of the establishment, but just at an alternative date. So that's how we've approached it. And also there is a slight penalty of maybe a 10% administration fee, etc., that we attach to it.
It's such a very difficult balancing act. All of us are having to tread very carefully at the moment amid the pandemic. What do you think about the necessity for this decision to close businesses? As a resident of East London, do you think it was the right thing to do despite the impact it's had on tourism?
You know, it's a very hard decision to take. But I can just imagine being part of the Command Council and having such a spike in the Eastern Cape with COVID-19 cases. I mean, it's a reality that people are dying out there. And I could appeal to the viewers, I could appeal to our travellers or our tourist sector that comes into East London to just adhere to the protocols. Because if they have adhered to the protocols previously, the President wouldn't have made the decision to close the beaches. But people are not listening. They are not adhering to the COVID-19 protocols, mask, sanitizer, social distancing, etc. So if people could just adhere to those protocols, you know, we wouldn't have had to suffer as a tourist sector here in East London.
Are lots of establishments going to have to close their doors as a result of this decision? We know that tourism is a very seasonal business. A lot of the establishments rely on festive season income to support them throughout the year.
Yes, definitely, and that affects employment, you know, and the unemployment rate is already high as it is. You know, truth be told is that before COVID-19, our economy was already under a lot of strain. So COVID-19 just brought an economy already under strain on its knees, you know, so with employment, It has affected, I drove past the Regent last night and I saw the whole Regent Hotel is closed, you know, until next year. So it definitely has affected. A lot of guest houses have decided to close over this period because it's no use staying open and then you still have to pay the overheads, the staff, etc. You know, some staff, obviously, we call them in as needed. So we are trying to really be clever about the way we are doing things at the moment. You minimize and you try to let your staff multitask. You know, what we've fortunately done is we ensure that all our staff are multitasked in the different departments of an establishment. So then you don't need a lot of staff because you're using this 1 or 2 or 3 people that can do a lot of things at the same time.
Well, we wish you all the best. Thank you very much for speaking to us. That was Chairperson of Women in Tourism East London and also owner of Park Place Boutique Guesthouse in the Eastern Cape, Lizelle Maurice.